Recording. Hi, Diane.
Hello.
We're recording and we're going to jump into demos and Joey's going to take it over.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Which pair wants to go first? Any takers that want to go first in this?
We can go first. If that's okay, John.
Yeah, we can totally do that.
So I think,
Great.
will I share my screen, John, and do you want to talk away?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. This will be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Can't wait.
So I just pulled down the latest one that you put up. I hope it's right. If it's wrong, let me know, because I use GitHub Desktop and sometimes it's a bit weird. So if this code is not the right code, let me know.
I still have to check that out. I haven't even played around with desktop.
It's actually pretty. Yeah, it's pretty good actually. I like it. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So where do you want me to start now?
Let's go to the actual app. Or start off at the actual page, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
So our task, I guess, was to be able to put in a token and either create a list or join an existing list.
Cool.
Yep. So once this loads up, you will see what we have done. Yeah, I was pulling it up last night and I was like, it's not working anymore. Like, why?
I know, yeah. We had a bit of back and forth with it, just for various reasons.
Yeah, totally. All right, so home screen here. We've got the enter token again up at the top, where you can enter in either, hopefully just a valid token. And then the button below, the join list button. After pressing that, what it's going to do is it's going to check to see if that is a valid token in Firebase or in the Firestore. And if it is, it's going to go ahead and bring you over to the shopping list, and it'll show the contents of that shopping list associated with that token. So Aisling, if you want to go ahead and give that a shot.
Okay, so we'll use an existing token, will we?
Let's show them the like a invalid token first. So that's obviously an invalid token there, and when she presses join list, it'll just say it's a bad token. Try again or create a new list. So when she clicks OK and puts in a valid token, join list, it'll go over and it'll show the contents of that list there. So that was
it, really, yeah.
3, 4. That was our ACs. Do you want to go to the code?
Yeah.
We'll go to app.js first, I guess, or home. Yeah, let's stay at home.
That looks like it's working perfectly there. Was it not working like?
Do you want to go, John?
So initially we had, let's go to app.js then. Initially we had all the logic in app.js.
Yeah.
So we decided to create the home page and put the logic in home page instead, just to clean everything up. And so that's where it was before. Then we decided to actually, let's put the switch and routes back into app.js. And so that kind of broke things a little bit with the logic. And so when I pulled everything down last night and I tried it again, it wasn't working anymore. Had to scramble to figure out what we did, and we got it working again.
Nice.
But it's working great now. So all of our the switch and routes are back in app.js, just so token will just be in one central place, just residing in the app component. And if we go back to home, This is where all the magic starts.
Yeah, this is where all our stuff is.
So what it's doing is it's taking in we've got our input token and our set input token up there. We've got our handle change, and all of that. The handle change is what makes the input set whatever the token set what the input token is. So I don't know if I'm gonna do this properly, but we'll see.
Okay, you're doing really well.
No,
Keep
yeah, you're
going.
doing a great job. Yeah, yeah.
So it's so it's setting the input token to whatever the value is of what the user is inputting. Then when you click the button, the logic is up there for the check token. It's calling up it's calling up the database. And what I added there, as recommended by the other team, is I guess if you don't enter in a token at all and it's just a blank field, it's going to error out. So we put in an if else just so you can check to make sure that something is actually in there, just to squash that. So if there isn't anything in there, it's going to say you must enter a token value and try again. But if there is something in there, it's going to go through, it's going to pull up the database and check to see if there is actually a list for that actual token and display it if there is. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
How did you find if you can you scroll up a little bit to the query logic? So on line 22, how did you guys, or how did you all figure out how to do this query? Did you all end up reading documentation, or were you kind of just piecing things together? I'm kind of curious to hear your experience about, you know, learning how to query.
So to be honest with you, I knew that we've done it before in a previous one. So I looked back and tried to find out what they did. And it was pretty much just piecing together what should go into where.
Yeah. And Lauren was very helpful with that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had a really good call with her during the week.
And the documentation was awesome. And but as far as like trying to figure out if the list is actually, if there is an actual list, or if it actually is a valid token, that took a lot of trial and error of about an hour and a half.
Yeah, that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
And I think
so
we had a bit of a conversation, sorry, John, just about from a user perspective, like whether the join the list should be in the alert or not. And that was kind of a question because I think Jen had made a good point about like if someone just sees join a list, they'll be like, what? So it was kind of like, so we kind of were toying with different ideas. So, but I think what we did was, you know, probably the right way to do it, but we just were thinking about different ways from a user's perspective, what they would want.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at this query, like it looks like it does what it's supposed to do. So
yeah,
great job, everybody.
Good work.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right. Should we move on to the final pair? Diane, Jen.
Yep. Yes. Sorry, there will be Elmo in the background here.
Oh, that just enhanced the demo.
Did you want to share your screen, Diane, or do you want me to share it?
Oh, yeah, I'll share mine.
Okay.
Cool. Oh yeah, wait, no, I'm in the wrong branch. My bad. What's command called? Oh, wait. Sorry, I was playing around in the wrench.
No, you're all right.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Okay, so I guess I'll talk. So our mandate was to check if there were any duplicate items in a shopping list that were already associated with. So because I'm already tokenized, so I'm gonna add some items. So we were supposed to normalize. I think I already have potatoes. So if I submit, it should throw an error message if there's a duplicate item in our list. Meaning we
Nice.
already got potatoes in there. Trash bags. So that one worked. I'm just gonna check in Firebase to make sure that trash bags was added. I am fussed. I'm just gonna garbage bags and trash bags was added. So ultimately with our app, in the input, we just made sure that all the spaces, punctuation, all that is taken in account for. So if I put oranges, it should still say that there's a duplicate. Or if I do Lysol, I guess Lysol worked.
The space doesn't go away.
Oh, the space.
So it'll consider it two words.
Right. I already had.
Are you, so when you type like Lysol in caps like that, is that being saved somewhere in your database too? Like the way the user input it?
Yeah, so the way that the user inputs it with punctuation and all, it's kept in the database. It's actually on, like when we're pulling the database to do the check, that we normalize everything, just so that if ever there is a punctuation or whatever, the user will still have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, so if I go to the code, yes, ours was mostly in shopping list, in the add form. I'm just gonna... Just want to make sure these are the latest changes though. Okay, so in the add item form, so at this point, so yeah, so we used useEffect to pull the full list of a collection linked to our token. We put the normalize in another function. Jen, do you want to explain why we
Yeah, so originally we were having problems with a suggestion that Lauren gave us to call useEffect whenever token or our shopping list collection changed, like the state changed. But unfortunately, that did an endless loop of pings to the database. And so originally we had moved it out of useEffect so that we could call it without actually having to re-render. But we ended up, actually we could have just left it in useEffect because we ended up circumventing that problem in a different way. But ultimately also in useEffect, you can see, so in previous components, we left that that array there blank, but now we have tokens, so it'll re-render every time the token changes. So it'll grab the new list every single time. And then we also took out shopping list collection to stop having it kind of continually ping.
Yep. Yeah, okay, so, and then in the handle submit, we double check with the normalized item. And it will throw an error, which we put in a state. It's either truthy or falsy. So if it is true, the error will show up. If it's false, there won't be an error. We were playing around to refresh the page after an item is successfully added to the shopping list without having a duplicate, but we were having issues with that. Maybe someone can help us at some point, or we can put it in a issue for future. And
I wonder if there's any way to use Firebase's like snapshot feature to do that, because I think like when you use snapshot, it will like update in real time.
Yes. Yeah, so that's like the major benefit for Firebase is that it's a real-time database. So ideally, whenever you update a collection that you're currently at, anytime that gets updated, the snapshot should in real time update it, and you should see it reflected in the app. So we can look at this later this week to see if we can just add that, because it shouldn't be too difficult to get that feature in, and we won't need to have to refresh the page since Firebase already handles that for us.
Okay.
That could be a lot.
Well, the refresh of the page is actually not to for Firebase. It's actually to clear the form. And so once like we actually submit,
Got it.
we're having issues trying to actually just completely clear the form, because it'll clear the form when you navigate back by clicking the add item button, but
Yeah.
it won't clear the form when you re-render.
Can you
Because state is there, and we try to clear state, but it won't let us because it says it is. Well, what was the wording, Diane? It was something about the state is like, it's like linked to something or something like that. And so it doesn't let us directly delete and reset state on re-render.
Can you, on that click of that button, just set state again? Like set state back to default?
So like on
the handle submit, after you either, so after you either in the catch where it doesn't include it, you can clear it like after maybe line 54. You can clear it, and then maybe after line 59, you can clear it.
It'd just be a matter of like using your set state.
Yeah.
And passing through the default value again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that was something that we had worked on last week, and what I think is happening
we're
is that we
breaking.
need to use like controlled versus uncontrolled components, which I don't know enough about to be able to explain beautifully. But I wouldn't be surprised if we used some kind of, as opposed to using straight up HTML components, if we pulled in some kind of React library, like for the select and for the date picker in particular, like they're able to reset state. It's just not reflecting in the components themselves.
Yeah, that makes
The
sense.
state is updating, but the components don't change, other than the text input. The text input works.
Yeah, and also I realized too, if we called set state inside of a conditional, we'd be breaking one of the rules of hooks, and so that's probably not how I want to do it. But that's definitely something that we could either pair on this week to knock that out, because I don't think it shouldn't be too difficult to get that done.
Yeah. Does somebody want to create a bug for that or an issue in GitHub?
Okay. There is an issue already. I think Diane created it last week.
Perfect.
Cool.
Great work. This is great. Fantastic.
Cool.
Good job.
Okay, good job, everybody.
Did anybody, like regex is always something that I feel like most people struggle with in a way. Did you learn anything new about regex, or how did you go about figuring out how to do it with the regex?
I think we just went on Stack Overflow.
Okay.
Somebody
Totally
had
valid.
already figured it out.
That's what I do every time I need regex. It's like, how do I make this case happen? I don't want to learn regex right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Somebody had shared in one of the previous cohorts some really good resources about regex. I'll find them and post them to you guys too.
It's awesome.
All right, great demo.
Good job, everybody. Yeah, that was awesome. It's really coming together now.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
It is.
All right, do we want to move on to learning module by Lauren?
Yes, so excited. Okay, so we're going to talk about pair programming this week. Let's make sure I share my correct desktop and present. Does it look like I'm sharing a pair programming deck? Beautiful. So Andrew created this deck a few weeks ago, and I tweaked it, including adding today's date. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. Pair programming is something that is really important to Collab Lab in general. Really, I feel like that is the most beneficial part of being in Collab Lab, is the opportunity to work with other people on solving problems. And there are a number of companies that make this a part of their day-to-day. It's not something that I've ever experienced. How about, has anyone else worked in an environment where pair programming is really a part of what you're doing day-to-day? Nice. So Joey, I'm gonna call on you to share your experience about what it's like to work in that kind of environment. But I'm going to talk about pair programming, maybe two different approaches to pair programming. So one approach can be, and we're thinking about this in terms of working remotely, right? Because it's perfectly, it's available to everyone. You don't have to be sitting in the same room to pair program. There are so many tools available to us to make it easy to collaborate virtually as well as in person. So this particular approach, we have a driver and a navigator. The driver is responsible for controlling the keyboard and writing the code that they need in order to complete the task or the issue that you're working on. So this person, probably the most important part of what this person is doing is trying to verbalize their thinking process as much as possible while they're coding. The navigator in this scenario is responsible for paying attention to what the driver is writing, offering guidance, probably Googling issues that they're running into, right, for coming up with different approaches if they're running into some roadblocks, and then acting as the sounding person for their partner. So this is one way to approach collaboration. So a different way to approach it is to have what I'm going to call a driver and a passenger. So in this case, the driver is not actually the person controlling the keyboard. This person is articulating their ideas for the code to the passenger. And in this case, the passenger is actually the person who's typing the code into the editor. So this approaches it from a different way in that I think the most important skill that is gained with this approach is the opportunity to improve your code communication. It's really, really challenging. For me personally, it can be very challenging to articulate in a clear way to your partner what it is that you're envisioning. So this is a really great way to practice that code articulation, which is great, not only in your day-to-day work, but also in like job interviews. It's a really great way to practice that skill. So two different approaches, both super valid. And I think really the most important part about pairing, no matter what approach that you take, it's really important to have the opportunity to serve in both roles, right? That it's, I think often it can be really natural to always do one role or always do the other role. Like for me personally, I'm not a super confident person. So it's really easy for me to allow somebody else to just take control of the keyboard and just have at it and go for it and just allow that to happen. So I always have to challenge myself to be that person who's maybe driving a little bit more, to not be afraid to offer my ideas. So what this can look like in practice for Collab Lab is that you'll hop on a call or video screen share. One person is driving and is sharing their screen. They're collaborating, asking questions, getting clarification. And then to me, the most important part is having the opportunity to switch roles, right? So the person who's coding is going to push their code up to GitHub. The other person pulls it down and then change roles. Because I think both roles really offer the opportunity to work on different skills. And I just think it's really important to have the opportunity to do that. So talking about mindset and attitude, I think this is really important too, to really approach this with an open mind, to be super accepting of others' ideas and open to new approaches. It's a great way to learn new approaches to a problem that maybe you hadn't thought about. I love this. Drivers seek agreement before proceeding. And again, this is about kind of articulating your ideas as you go. I don't know about you, it's like super hard to talk and type at the same time, but it's a great skill. And again, like it's not about teaching or mentoring, it's about working together to solve a problem. So now I would love to open it up. So Joey, actually I'd love to ask you about what your experiences are with collaborating, and then open it up to everyone, and so that we can talk about what it's been like so far in Collab Lab and what things have worked well for you and maybe what things you'd like to try.
Totally. So I'm gonna go way back with my experiences with pair programming. Back in 2016, when I was at Hack Reactor, when we were in the first part of our cohort, everything we did was in pair programming. So we always had a driver and a navigator, and we would switch off every 15 to 20 minutes. So we'd have a problem such as, like, we had to solve the N Queens problem, which is like a pretty well-known computer science problem. So, you know, we'd spend 15 minutes. One person would be the navigator, one person would be the driver. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me, being the navigator at first, because, you know, you can spend so much time writing code and, you know, practicing that muscle of writing code. But when you're in the position to kind of guide someone and really explain your thought process, it really makes you realize that maybe you need a little bit more of understanding of what you're actually working on in order to explain it better to somebody. And for me, when I was in that experience, it really made me realize that, oh, maybe I should take this opportunity to get better at communicating, get better at discussing technical details. And after that experience, that 12-week experience, I got really confident in explaining technical detail. I think that you have such an amazing opportunity with Collab Lab to get confidence and, you know, get the skills when it comes to technical communication, because that's such a huge part in what we do every day at work. In my current day-to-day, I'm mentoring someone from our QA department. She's making a transition to development. And so I spend a lot of my days with her, pairing on small tasks that she's working on. And for me, as when I'm the driver in this case, when I'm writing the code and I'm listening to her, she gets to practice, you know, talking through her way of thinking on a new problem. And for me as a driver, you know, I get the opportunity to provide feedback, or, you know, to really question her technical decisions, not in like a condescending way, but really to make her think about what she's talking about in terms of like our solution, or really just helps her dig deeper. And I think that she's really benefiting from our conversations. And yeah, I hope that y'all in Collab Lab can really kind of get the same benefits from, you know, our pair programming sessions.
Awesome, thank you. So what other, would anyone else like to offer their experience with pairing so far in Collab Lab? Like what things have worked, what things have you appreciated? Maybe what things would you like to try?
Well, for me, I mean, I've never, up until now, I haven't pair programmed really at all. It takes some getting used to when you're not the one, you know, doing everything. And I mean, in that way where you're used to doing everything yourself, but then now it's taking the back seat, I guess, sometimes, and just it helps me think about what I want. Like, do I really understand what I'm doing? Just like what Joey was saying. And in many cases, it's like, I know what I'm doing, I know what I want to do, but why is it working that way? So it's making me open up my eyes that way as when we're pair programming. But I don't know, it's an experience, and I'm liking it so far, just because everyone offers different things to the table, and you know, you learn everything. You learn a lot every day when pair programming. So that's one of the cool things about it that I like.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things I really like about it too, is that just having the opportunity to learn from someone else's perspective. And I don't know, I feel more confident when I'm working with somebody. Like I know, like I feel pretty good about my own problem solving capabilities, but if I have a friend that I'm working with, right, I feel just so much better knowing that we've got each other's backs. Like I love that part of it too.
My favorite thing about pair programming is that it keeps me focused. Without somebody else watching me, I'll spin my wheels on something forever, or like be working on one problem and then start tinkering on another that it kind of led into, and then into another and into another. Before I know it, I've spent an hour doing nothing that I was supposed to do. When there's somebody else like keeping you focused, working on the same problem, it helps you like drive forward harder and faster without the distractions of like the million other things you could fix in the app or build into it.
Nice.
I really like pair programming in like this remote setting. I feel that whenever I was pair programming like in person, like we either would both get distracted or whatever, but when you're doing it remotely, yeah, you're both staring at your screens and you're really focused. So it's been really helpful during Collab Lab. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah, I think also for me, it's been nice to have somebody watching you code. It's kind of intimidating, but actually it's quite good because, everyone has been so kind and said, oh, maybe don't put that there, maybe put it there and stuff. So it's good for accountability, and it was very new to me. I'd never pair programmed with anyone, so I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, for me, I went to a boot camp where the curriculum was pair programming every day for 5 months with all of your cohort mates. And they would force you to pair program with a new person every single day and not like pair program with people back to back. And I really loved, that was one of the reasons why I was really excited about going to Collab Lab, was because it felt like it would kind of be a continuation of that. And I just really love, it's almost like you get to know your coworker better than before, because you know how they work and you know how they think about code might be completely different than how you think about it, and your solutions might be different. And so I feel like it's a really good opportunity to learn because you're not stuck in one mindset. And so I've learned a lot from everyone here so far too, so I really enjoy that about pair programming.
I love it.
Nice. I have a, is it okay, Stacey, if I share this slide deck?
Yeah, totally, okay. Absolutely.
I'm going to share the slide deck in Slack. There is a list of some resources, but I'm not going to walk step by step through the resources, but please explore these on your own. And then I just love everyone's love hearing about everyone's experiences, and just remember, like, going forward, challenge yourself to take on that role maybe that you're less comfortable with, and make sure that I guess everyone has the opportunity to serve in both roles going forward, because I think it'll give lots of benefits to you to participate in that way.
Totally. Each role, like being the driver and being the navigator, each brings such a unique experience to the table, and each one is incredibly valuable. So do make sure that when you are pair programming, within that one call that you're switching on and off, whatever amount of time makes sense for you, but gaining those experiences across the board is going to be so invaluable.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do Joey or Lauren, do one of you want to kind of like set up next week? Like go through
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What the status of the board is right now.
Yeah, let me share. Let me get stuff set up on my screen real quick. Cool. So alrighty, let's take a look at our issue list. Number 7 and number 8. Cool. So number 7, as a user, I want to see a welcoming prompt to add my first item if my list is empty, to help me get oriented to how the app works. So the AC for this is the list view. When there are no items to display, show a prompt, example, a button, for the user to add their first item. Number 8, as a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchased. So the AC for this looks like a user is able to tap a checkbox or similar UI element to mark an item in the list as purchased, and the item should be shown as checked for 24 hours after the purchase is made. So that purchase is made when we assume that the user does not need to buy the item again for at least 1 day. So based off these two stories, does anybody have a preference for which one they like to work on? Looks like we have one for that might be more UI focused a little bit, and it looks like we have one that might be more database focused with some UI as well.
And the pairs, I think, are Jennifer and Ashling and Diane and John.
Yeah. Is there any takers for number 7?
I'd have an interest in number 7. I don't know about you, Jen. Do you?
Good.
No? Yeah?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Definitely check out the example app for that one. Might help you find some focus.
Okay.
Of course, you don't have to stick to how the example app does it. Just know that it's there if you need some guidance.
Do you mean the YouTube?
Yeah, you could look in there, or you can just go to the URL. Let me send it in Slack.
Okay, thank you.
And then Lauren, do you have a preference for which group you would like to be assigned to?
Oh no, I'm open to either.
Okay. I guess I can take 7 and you can take 8.
Okay, let's see. Create breakout rooms. Number 1 is going to be Joey, Jennifer, Ashley. Number 2, Lauren, John, Diane.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to send you into these breakout rooms. Really fantastic job this week. Incredible. Not only was your collaboration so on point and amazing, but this meeting itself was super efficient and wonderful. Great demos, great presentation, great contributions to the presentation, everybody. Your thoughts and your collaboration here are incredibly inspiring, and it's such a pleasure. So, okay, go in your breakout rooms, do amazing work, wash your hands. Amazing. See you all around. Opening the rooms now.
See ya.
Bye.